Relax with stories that help you sleep, work, and calm your mind. Today's story is called Love Between Two Rival Families. We invite you to listen and support our channel by clicking subscribe and receiving channel notifications to conveniently follow the next videos. Sincerely, thank you. The city of New Orleans hums with a seductive pulse, its streets a tapestry of old-world charm and modern grit. Gas lamps flicker alongside neon signs, and the air carries the heady mix of jazz, bourbon, and secrets. Beneath the surface of this maelstrom of culture and decadence lies a hidden world, a labyrinth of power, betrayal, and blood feuds that have simmered for generations. At the heart of this underworld are two families, locked in a silent war that threatens to consume them both. The Delacroix family, with roots tracing back to the French aristocrats who settled Louisiana centuries ago, is a dynasty of elegance and menace. Their name is whispered in the halls of power, their influence woven into the city's real estate empire and the shadowy corridors of political maneuvering. They are old money, their wealth built on land, secrets, and the iron will of those who came before. The Delacroix mansion, perched on the edge of the Garden District, is a sprawling monument to their legacy white columns gleaming under Spanish moss, windows glowing with the promise of forbidden knowledge. To cross a Delacroix is to invite ruin, and they know it. In contrast, the Navarro family is a newer force, their Latin blood pulsing with ambition and defiance. Rising from the streets of Miami, before claiming New Orleans as their battleground, the Navarros have carved out an empire in the digital age. They traffic in cutting-edge technology, smuggling circuits and data as easily as others move drugs. Their control over the city's black market is absolute, their network sprawling from dockside warehouses to encrypted servers hidden in the cloud. The Navarro compound, a sleek fortress in the warehouse district, bristles with modernity glass and steel, reflecting the city's skyline, guarded by men with eyes like hawks and guns tucked beneath tailored suits. The Navarros are hungry, relentless, and unafraid to draw blood. The enmity between the Delacroix and Navarro families is the stuff of legend, a feud etched in the bones of New Orleans. It began decades ago, over a disputed territory along the Mississippi River, but the true spark was a death Navarro patriarch, found lifeless in a French Quarter alley. A Delacroix dagger, rumored to have been the culprit. Since then, the families have clashed over every scrap of power, their battles fought in whispers, bribes, and the occasional body left floating in the bayou. Each side blames the other for every misfortune, every lost deal, every unexplained tragedy. Trust is a currency neither can afford, and peace is a lie they both maintain for appearances. At the helm of the Delacroix legacy is Julian Delacroix, the eldest son, a man who wears his 28 years like a tailored suite, effortless, commanding, and just a little dangerous. Julian is the embodiment of his family's contradictions, a face carved from marble with high cheekbones and a jawline that could cut glass, yet softened by eyes the color of storm clouds, gray and fathomless. His dark hair falls in loose waves, often swept back but never quite tamed, a hint of rebellion in its disarray. His body is a study in disciplined, strength-broad shoulders, tapering to a lean waist, every muscle honed from years of training in both boardrooms and back alleys. When he moves, it's with the grace of a predator, each step deliberate, each glance weighted with intent. His voice, low and smooth like aged whiskey, can charm a senator or terrify a thug, depending on the day. Julian's wardrobe is impeccable bespoke suits in charcoal and navy, crisp white shirts unbuttoned just enough to reveal a glimpse of the taut chest beneath, a silver watch glinting at his wrist. But there's a restlessness in him, a flicker of something untamed beneath the polished exterior. He's the heir to an empire he doesn't fully want, a man who plays the game because it's all he's ever known. Women fall at his feet, drawn to his cold charisma, but none have ever touched the heart he keeps locked away. To the world, Julian is untouchable. To himself, he's a man searching for something he can't name. On the other side stands Catalina Navarro, the 26-year-old daughter of the Navarro clan. A woman who burns with a fire that both captivates and intimidates. Catalina is a vision of defiance and allure, her beauty as sharp as a blade. Her skin glows with the warmth of sun-kissed bronze, a canvas for the cascade of dark hair that tumbles past her shoulders in waves, catching the light like polished obsidian. Her eyes, a deep hazel flecked with gold, are windows to a soul that's equal parts fierce and vulnerable, capable of pinning a man to the wall with a single glance. Her lips, full and naturally rose-tinted, curve into smiles that are both promise and warning. Catalina's body is a masterpiece of curves and strength-long legs that move with the confidence of a dancer, a slender waist that flares into hips that sway with every step, and arms toned from hours spent training in secret. She dresses to command attention, favoring fitted leather jackets, silk blouses that cling to her form, and heels that click like a countdown to trouble. Her presence is electric, a storm contained in human form, and she knows it. Catalina is brilliant. Her mind is sharp as her tongue, with a degree in computer science tucked away like a hidden weapon. But to her family, she's a pawn, a political asset to be bartered in alliances or marriages. She chafes against this role, her spirit too wild to be caged, her heart too stubborn to bend. Men pursue her, drawn to her fire, but she dismisses them with a flick of her wrist, uninterested in anyone who sees her as less than she is. The tension between the Delacroix and Navarro families is a living thing, a current that runs beneath every deal, every glance, every whispered rumor in New Orleans. Their war is fought in the shadows through hacked systems, rigged elections, and bodies that vanish before dawn. Yet, on the surface, they maintain a fragile truce, attending the same galas, shaking hands at charity events, smiling for the cameras while plotting each other's downfall. The city watches, breathless, knowing that one wrong move could ignite a firestorm. Julian and Catalina, though born to opposing sides, are bound by more than their family's hatred. They are mirrors of each other too, souls trapped in roles they didn't choose, yearning for freedom they can't quite grasp. Julian, with his cold exterior and buried dreams, carries the weight of his father's expectations, every decision scrutinized, every mistake a potential betrayal. Catalina, with her fiery spirit and restless mind, fights to be seen as more than a bargaining chip, her every move watched by a family that loves her but doesn't trust her. Both are players in a game neither fully controls, their lives dictated by blood and legacy. Their worlds collide in the underbelly of New Orleans, where the air is thick with possibility and peril. The city itself seems to conspire in their story, its winding streets and hidden courtyards offering refuge for secrets, its music and shadows cloaking forbidden desires. The Delacroix and Navarro families may rule this world, But Julian and Catalina are its beating heart, their paths destined to cross in ways that will shake the foundations of everything they know. As the sun sets over the Mississippi, casting a golden glow across the city, the stage is set. A peace gala looms on the horizon, a masquerade of civility where enemies will smile and plot in equal measure. Julian will be there, his gray eyes scanning the crowd, his mind already 3 steps ahead. Catalina will walk in, her head high, her heart a tangle of defiance and longing. Neither knows that the other carries a memoria fleeting moment from years ago, when they met as strangers and felt, for a moment, like they could be something more. The war between their families is about to take a new turn, one that the Delacroix patriarch, not the Navarro matriarch, not even the city itself could have foreseen. For in the heart of this feud, a spark has been lit, one that threatens to burn brighter than the hatred that divides them. And in New Orleans, where love and danger dance as one, that spark could be the beginning of everything or the end. The ballroom of the old St. Charles Hotel glows like a fever dream, its chandeliers dripping with crystal that fractures the light into 1,000 golden shards. New Orleans is at its most decadent tonight, the air heavy with the scent of magnolias, cigar smoke, and ambition. The gala, billed as a gesture of peace between the Delacroix and Navarro families, is a lie wrapped in silk and champagne. Every smile hides a blade, every handshake a calculation. The city's elite mingle with its shadows politicians, tycoons, and underworld players, all dressed in bespoke tuxedos and gowns that shimmer like liquid sin. Jazz drifts from a quartet in the corner, the saxophone's wail curling through the crowd like a lover's whisper. But beneath the glamour, the room hums with tension, a tightrope stretched between 2 empires, ready to snap. Julian Delacroix stands near a marble pillar, a glass of bourbon in hand, his posture deceptively relaxed. At 28, he's a vision of controlled power, his tailored black tuxedo hugging his frame like a second skin. The fabric clings to his broad shoulders, accentuating the lean strength of his chest, the jacket unbuttoned just enough to reveal a sliver of crisp white shirt stretched taut across his torso. His dark hair, swept back but falling in defiant waves, catches the light, and his storm gray eyes scan the room with the precision of a hawk. Those eyes miss nothing, the way a Navarro enforcer lingers too long near the bar, the subtle nod between 2 Delacroix allies across the room. Julian's lips, full and sculpted, curve into a faint smirk, but it's a mask. Inside, he's restless, a caged animal in a room full of predators. His fingers, long and elegant, toy with the rim of his glass, the silver cufflinks at his wrists glinting with every movement. He's beautiful in a way that feels dangerous, like a storm you can't look away from. Women steal glances, their eyes lingering on the sharp line of his jaw, the way his throat moves when he sips his drink, the promise of heat beneath his icy exterior. But Julian doesn't notice. His mind is elsewhere, caught in a memory he can't shaka, woman's laugh, a brush of fingers, a night years ago when he wasn't a Delacroix, just a man. Across the room, Catalina Navarro commands attention without trying. She glides through the crowd, her crimson gown a bold slash against the sea of black and gold. The dress is a masterpiece of provocation and elegance, its silk bodice molded to her curves, dipping low to reveal the smooth expanse of her collarbone and the gentle swell of her breasts. The fabric skims her slender waist, before flaring into a skirt that parts at the thigh, offering glimpses of long-toned legs with every step. Her bronze skin glows under the chandelier light, and her dark hair cascades over one shoulder in waves, a single diamond pin catching the light like a star. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, are sharp and unyielding, scanning the room with a mix of defiance and boredom. Her lips, painted a deep berry red, part slightly as she exchanges pleasantries, but her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Catalina's movements are fluid, her hips swaying with a rhythm that's almost hypnotic, her heels clicking against the polished floor like a challenge. She's 26, but carries herself with the confidence of someone who's fought for every inch of her place in this world. Men watch her, drawn to the fire in her gaze, the way her body promises both pleasure and danger. But Catalina ignores them, her mind drifting to a moment she's tried to bury a stranger's voice, a shared cigarette, a night when she was just a woman, not a Navarro. The gala is a chessboard, and every guest a piece. The Delacroix contingent clusters near the grand staircase, their patriarch, Antoine Delacroix, holding court with a senator and a real estate mogul. Antoine's silver hair and cold blue eyes mark him as Julian's father, but where Julian is fire beneath ice, Antoine is pure frost. His presence is a reminder of the family's iron grip on the city's power structure. On the other side, the Navarros hold their own territory near the dance floor, led by Elena Navarro, Catalina's mother, a woman whose beauty is matched only by her ruthlessness. Elena's dark eyes miss nothing, her emerald gown a stark contrast to her daughter's red, her every word laced with venom, disguised as charm. The families don't mingle, their orbits carefully maintained, but the air between them crackles with unspoken threats. Julian feels the weight of his father's expectations, the silent command to observe, to report, to outmaneuver. He's here to play the dutiful son, but his heart isn't in it. He sips his bourbon, the burn grounding him, and lets his gaze drift. That's when he sees her Catalina, a flame in the crowd, her red gown drawing his eye like a moth to a fire. His breath catches, a flicker of recognition he can't place. She's a Navarro, he knows that much, but there's something else, something that tugs at the edges of his memory. He watches her move, the way her hips sway, the way her fingers brush a strand of hair from her face, and he feels a pull he can't explain. It's not just her beauty though, God. She's breathtaking, it's the way she carries herself, like she's daring the world to break her. Catalina feels his stare before she sees him. It's a prickle at the nape of her neck, a heat that makes her pulse quicken. She turns, her eyes locking on to Julian's across the room. The world narrows to that single point of contact, the noise of the gala fading to a hum. His gray eyes hold hers, unyielding, and for a moment, she forgets to breathe. He's a Delacroix, her enemy, but there's something in his gazia hunger, a question that feels achingly familiar. She remembers a night, years ago, at an art gallery in the French Quarter. A man with no name, a stranger who spoke to her of brushstrokes and shadows, who made her laugh until her chest ached. She'd called herself Lena that night, shedding her Navarro skin for a few hours. He'd been just Jay, his smile a secret shared between them. They'd parted with a promise to meet again, but life and their families had other plans. Now, standing in this gilded cage, they recognize each other, though neither dares admit it. Julian's heart pounds, a traitor to his training. She's a Navarro, he reminds himself, but the thought feels hollow, Catalina's fingers tighten around her champagne flute, her mind screaming to look away, but her body betrays her, rooted to the spot. They're surrounded by enemies, watched by allies who'd kill for less, but in that moment, they're alone, two souls caught in a memory neither can shake. The spell breaks when Elena Navarro's voice cuts through the crowd, calling Catalina to her side. She tears her gaze from Julian, her chest tight, and moves to obey, her red gown trailing like blood. Julian watches her go, his jaw tightening, the bourbon forgotten in his hand. He shouldn't care, shouldn't feel this pull, but he does. And that, he knows, is a dangerous thing. The night wears on, the gala a dance of deception. Julian plays his part, charming a councilwoman, deflecting questions from a rival, but his eyes keep finding Catalina, tracking her through the crowd. She's a magnet, pulling him despite every instinct screaming to stay away. Catalina feels it too, her skin prickling every time his gaze brushes her. She laughs at a joke she doesn't hear, her mind replaying that night at the gallery, the way his voice had felt like a caress, the way his fingers had grazed hers when he lit her cigarette. Their paths converge near the edge of the ballroom, where a shadowed alcove offers a moment's reprieve from prying eyes. Julian is there first, leaning against the wall, his tuxedo jacket open, the white shirt clinging to his chest. He looks like a fallen angel, all sharp edges and quiet intensity. Catalina approaches, her heart a drumbeat, her heels clicking softly. She stops a few feet away, her hazel eyes locking onto his. "You shouldn't be here," Julian says, his voice low, a velvet warning. But his eyes betray him, drinking her in the curve of her lips, the way her gown hugs her hips, the pulse fluttering at her throat. "Neither should you," Catalina replies, her voice a challenge, her accent a soft lilt that makes his blood hum. She steps closer, close enough to catch the scent of his cologne sandalwood and smoke. But here we are. They stand there, inches apart, the air between them electric. Julian's fingers twitch, aching to touch her, to trace the line of her jaw, the curve of her shoulder. Catalina's breath hitches, her body leaning toward him, drawn by a force she can't name. They're enemies, their families at war, but in this moment, none of it matters. There's only the heat of his gaze, the way her skin burns under it, the memory of a night when they were free. "Do I know you?" Julian asks, his voice barely a whisper, testing the waters. Catalina's lips curve, a secret playing there. "Maybe in another life," she says, her eyes glinting with mischief and something deeper, something that makes his chest ache. Before he can respond, a shadow moves nearby a Navarro enforcer, watching. Catalina steps back, her expression shuddering, and slips back into the crowd. Julian watches her go, his heart a riot, knowing this is only the beginning. They're playing with fire, and in New Orleans, fire burns hotter than anywhere else. The gala at the St. Charles Hotel pulses with a frenetic energy, a glittering cage where New Orleans' elite and its underbelly collide. The chandeliers cast a golden haze over the ballroom, their light dancing across crystal flutes and polished cufflinks, but the air is thick with unspoken threats. The jazz quartet's melody weaves through the crowd, a sultry undercurrent to the clinking glasses and murmured deals. The Delacroix and Navarro families maintain their careful distance, their respective entourage orbiting like planets, bound by a volatile truce. Yet, beneath the surface, the night crackles with a different kind of electricity, one that belongs to Julian Delacroix and Catalina Navarro alone. Catalina feels the weight of her mother's gaze, Elena Navarro's dark eyes tracking her every move. The crimson gown she wears, a daring cascade of silk that hugs her curves and splits at the thigh, is both armor and rebellion. It clings to her bronze skin, accentuating the gentle swell of her breasts, the dip of her waist, and the long, toned legs that draw every eye in the room. Her dark hair, pinned loosely with a single diamond, spills over one shoulder in waves, brushing the bare skin of her collarbone. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, are restless, scanning the crowd for an escape. The gala is suffocating, a reminder of her role as the Navarro family's prized set upon in their endless game of power. She's tired of the charade, of smiling for men who see her as a trophy, of dodging her mother's plans to marry her off to some cartel heir. Her heart, still racing from her encounter with Julian in the alcove, demands freedom, even if just for a moment. She slips away from the crowd, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor as she weaves through a throng of tuxedos and sequins. The French doors at the far end of the ballroom beckon, promising a breath of air untainted by politics and lies. She pushes them open and steps onto the balcony, the night wrapping around her like a lover. The Mississippi River glitters below, its surface reflecting the crescent moon that hangs low in the sky. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of jasmine and the distant tang of the river, and for the first time all night, Catalina feels like she can breathe. She doesn't see him at first, Julian, standing at the far end of the balcony, half hidden in the shadows. He's shed his tuxedo jacket, the white dress shirt rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and dusted with dark hair. The shirt clings to his broad chest, the top button undone to expose a tantalizing glimpse of his throat and the strong column of his neck. His dark hair, usually so carefully styled, is mussed, a few strands falling across his forehead, catching the moonlight. He's leaning against the wrought iron railing, a cigarette dangling between his long, elegant fingers, the ember glowing red as he takes a slow drag. His storm gray eyes, framed by lashes too long for a man, are fixed on the river, but they flicker to her the moment she steps into view. The sight of him steals her breath. Julian Delacroix, all sharp angles and quiet intensity, is a vision of forbidden desire. His body, lean and powerful, moves with a predator's grace, and the way his lips curl around the cigarette makes her pulse stutter. He's beautiful, dangerous, and utterly wrong for her, but her body doesn't care. Julian feels her presence before he sees her, a prickle at the base of his spine, a heat that pulls his gaze from the river. When he turns, Catalina is a vision in red, the gown molding to her like it was painted on. The moonlight bathes her skin in silver, highlighting the curve of her cheekbones, the delicate arch of her neck, the way her hair frames her face like a dark halo. Her eyes, those hazel pools flecked with gold, meet his, and the world narrows to the space between them. His cigarette burns, forgotten in his hand, the ash falling to the stone floor. He's seen beautiful women before too many, if he's honest, but none like her. Catalina is fire and steel, a storm wrapped in silk, and every inch of her calls to something primal in him. His fingers itch to touch her, to trace the line of her jaw, to feel the heat of her skin under his. But she's a Navarro, and he's a Delacroix, and the weight of their names is a chain around his heart. "You're running from something," Julian says, his voice low, a velvet caress that sends a shiver down her spine. He straightens, flicking the cigarette over the railing, and takes a step toward her. The movement is slow, deliberate, his eyes never leaving hers. Catalina's lips curve, a half smile that's both defiance and invitation. "Aren't you?" she counters, her voice a soft lilt, the faintest trace of her Latin roots curling around the words. She doesn't move, doesn't retreat, her body rooted to the spot as he closes the distance. The air between them hums, charged with a current neither can ignore. They stand there, inches apart, the moonlight casting their shadows across the balcony. Julian's gaze roams her face, lingering on her lips, the pulse fluttering at her throat, the way her chest rises and falls with each breath. She's close enough that he can smell her perfume jasmine and something darker, like spiced rum. It's intoxicating, pulling him under, and he fights the urge to close the gap. Catalina feels the heat of his stare, her skin tingling as if he's already touching her. She studies him in return, the sharp line of his jaw, the way his shirt stretches across his shoulders, the faint stubble that darkens his cheeks. He's a Delacroix, her enemy, but in this moment, he's just Julian, the man who looked at her like she was the only thing that mattered. "What are we doing, Catalina?" Julian asks, his voice rough, the question as much for himself as for her. He steps closer, close enough that she can feel the warmth of his body, the faint brush of his breath against her skin. She tilts her head, her eyes glinting with mischief, and something deeper, something that makes his chest ache. "If I wasn't a Navarro," she whispers, her voice trembling with the weight of the words, "what would you do?" Julian's breath catches, his gray eyes darkening with desire. "If I wasn't a Delacroix," he murmurs, his voice a low growl, "I'd have kissed you already." The words hang between them. A dare, a confession, a sin. Catalina's heart pounds, her body swaying toward him, drawn by a force stronger than reason. She doesn't step back, doesn't look away, her gaze locked on his. "Then why are you waiting?" she challenges, her voice barely audible, but it's enough. Julian moves, slow and deliberate, like a man stepping into a dream he knows he'll pay for. His hand lifts, his fingers brushing her cheek, the touch light but electric. Her skin is soft, warm, and the contact sends a jolt through him, a spark that ignites something he's kept buried for years. Catalina's breath hitches, her lips parting as his thumb traces the curve of her jaw, lingering at the corner of her mouth. His other hand finds her waist, his palm pressing against the silk of her gown, feeling the heat of her body beneath. She's all curves and fire, her hips swaying slightly under his touch, and it takes every ounce of his control not to pull her closer. Catalina feels like she's drowning, his touch a lifeline and a danger all at once. His fingers on her face are gentle but firm, his eyes searching hers for permission, for absolution. She leans into him, her hands finding his chest, her fingers splaying across the hard planes of muscle beneath his shirt. His heart beats strong under her palm, a rhythm that matches her own. She can feel the tension in him, the battle between want and duty, and it mirrors her own. They're enemies, their families at war, but here, under the moonlight, they're just two people who found something they can't let go. Julian lowers his head, his lips hovering over hers, so close she can feel the warmth of his breath. "This is a mistake," he whispers, but there's no conviction in his voice, only need. "Then make it," Catalina breathes, her voice a plea, a command, a surrender. He does. His lips meet hers, soft at first, a tentative brush that sends a shockwave through them both, but the restraint doesn't last. The kiss deepens, hungry and desperate, a collision of longing and defiance. Julian's hand slides into her hair, his fingers tangling in the dark waves, tilting her head to deepen the kiss. Catalina responds, her body pressing against his, her arms winding around his neck. His lips are firm, warm, tasting of bourbon and smoke, and she loses herself in the heat of him, the way his tongue teases hers, the way his hands roam her back, pulling her closer until there's no space left between them. Her body fits against his like it was made for him, her curves molding to the hard lines of his frame. Julian's hands explore her, one sliding down her spine, tracing the dip of her lower back, the other gripping her hip, his fingers digging into the silk of her gown. Catalina's hands roam too, one slipping under his shirt to feel the taut skin of his abdomen, the other threading through his hair, tugging gently. The kiss is a fire, consuming them both, and for the first time in their lives, they feel alive truly, achingly alive. The world fades the gala, their families, the war that defines them. There's only this moment, this kiss, this forbidden connection that feels like a curse and a blessing. Julian pulls back just enough to rest his forehead against hers, his breath ragged, his eyes searching hers. Catalina, he murmurs, her name a prayer on his lips. She smiles, a soft, vulnerable thing that makes his heart twist. Julian, she whispers back, her voice trembling with the weight of what they've done. They stand there, wrapped in each other, the moonlight painting them in silver and shadow. They know this is dangerous, that this kiss could cost them everything, their families, their futures, their lives. But for now, they don't care. For now, they're just Julian and Catalina, two souls who found each other in the wrong place, at the wrong time, under the right moon. The sound of footsteps breaks the spell, a reminder of the world waiting to tear them apart. Catalina pulls back, her eyes wide, her lips swollen from his kiss. Julian's hands linger on her waist, reluctant to let go, but he does, his jaw tightening as reality crashes in. "Go," he says, his voice rough, but there's a tenderness in his eyes that makes her chest ache. She nods, stepping back, her gown rustling softly. "This isn't over," she says, her voice firm, a promise and a challenge. Julian's lips curve, a ghost of a smile. It's only just begun. Catalina turns and slips back through the French doors, her heart a riot, her body still humming from his touch. Julian watches her go, his fingers brushing his lips where hers had been, the taste of her lingering like a drug. He lights another cigarette, the flame casting his face in sharp relief, and leans against the railing, staring out at the river. The night is far from over, and neither is their story. The kiss under the moonlight at the St. Charles Hotel has changed everything. For Julian Delacroix and Catalina Navarro, the world is no longer just a battlefield of their family's making. It's a labyrinth of stolen moments and forbidden desire. New Orleans, with its sultry nights and shadowed corners, becomes their accomplice, offering hiding places for a love that could destroy them both. The Delacroix and Navarro feud rages on, a silent war of deals and bloodshed, but Julian and Catalina are fighting a different battle zone, where every touch is a risk, every glance a rebellion, and every heartbeat a defiance of the chains that bind them. Julian moves through his days like a man possessed, his polished exterior hiding the storm within. At 28, he's the perfect heir to the Delacroix empire, tall, broad-shouldered, with a body carved from discipline and danger. His dark hair, swept back, but always a touch rebellious, frames a face that could stop hearts, high cheekbones, a jawline sharp enough to cut, and storm-gray eyes that see everything and reveal nothing. His tailored suit's charcoal today, paired with a black shirt, unbuttoned, at the collar cling to his lean muscles, hinting at the strength beneath. When he walks, it's with a predator's grace, each step measured, his long fingers adjusting a cufflink or brushing back a stray lock of hair. His voice, low and smooth like aged bourbon, commands boardrooms and back alleys alike. But it's the rare, unguarded moments when his lips curve into a half smile or his eyes soften that make him irresistible. Women notice him, their gazes lingering on the way his shirt stretches across his chest, the faint stubble darkening his jaw, the promise of heat in his touch. But Julian's heart, once locked away, now beats for one woman alone, Catalina Navarro, the enemy he can't stop wanting. Catalina, at 26, is a vision of fire and defiance, her beauty as much a weapon as her mind. Her bronze skin glows under the city's neon lights, her dark hair cascading in waves that beg to be touched, catching the glow of street lamps or candlelight. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, are sharp and searching, capable of cutting through lies or softening with a vulnerability she rarely shows. Her body is a study in contrast, slender, yet curvaceous, with long legs that move with a dancer's grace and hips that sway like a metronome of temptation. She dresses to unsettle, favoring leather jackets that hug her frame, silk tops that skim her curves, and jeans that mold to her thighs like a second skin. Her lips, full and naturally rose-tinted, curve into smiles that are both promise and challenge, and her voice, a soft lilt with a Latin cadence, can seduce or command with equal ease. Men want her, women envy her, but Catalina's soul is restless, chafing against her family's plans to use her as a bargaining chip. Only with Julian does she feel seen, her true self breaking free in the moments they steal together. Their first secret meeting comes a week after the gala, in a dimly lit jazz club tucked away in the French Quarter. The place is a haven for those who don't want to be found smoke curls in the air. The saxophone's wail drowns out whispers, and the bartenders ask no questions. Julian waits in a corner booth, his gray eyes scanning the door, his fingers drumming a restless rhythm on the table. He's traded his suit for a black leather jacket and jeans, the casual look making him seem younger, more dangerous. When Catalina walks in, his breath catches. She's in a black silk blouse that clings to her breasts, the neckline dipping low to reveal a sliver of bronze skin, paired with tight jeans and ankle boots that click against the wooden floor. Her hair is loose, framing her face, and her eyes find his instantly, a spark igniting between them. They don't speak at first, just sit across from each other, the table a barrier they both want to destroy. "This is insane," Julian says finally, his voice rough, but his eyes are drinking her in the curve of her lips, the way her fingers toy with a silver bracelet, the pulse fluttering at her throat. "Insane is staying away," Catalina replies, her voice a soft challenge, her hazel eyes locked on his. She leans forward, her blouse shifting to reveal more of her collarbone, and Julian's fingers tighten around his glass, his control fraying. They talk, their words a dance of caution and confession, They speak of the city, of music, of dreams they've buried under their family's weight. But the real conversation is in their eyes, their touches, the way Julian's hand brushes hers when he passes her a drink, the way Catalina's fingers linger on his wrist, her nails grazing his skin. The club fades away, the world shrinking to the space between them. And when Julian stands and offers his hand, Catalina takes it, her heart pounding. He leads her to a back room, a storage space cluttered with crates and old instruments, the air thick with dust and possibility. The door clicks shut, and they're alone. The music a muffled pulse through the walls. Julian steps closer, his hands finding her waist, pulling her against him. Her body fits his perfectly, her curves molding to his hard lines, and she gasps at the heat of him, the way his fingers dig into her hips. "Catalina," he murmurs, his lips brushing her ear, his breath warm against her skin. "You're going to ruin me." "Then we'll ruin each other," she whispers, her hands sliding up his chest, feeling the taut muscles beneath his shirt. She tugs at his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders, and he shrugs it free, letting it fall to the floor. His hands roam her back, tracing the curve of her spine, slipping under her blouse to find the soft skin beneath. Her breath hitches, her body arching into his touch, and when his lips find hers, it's a collision of need and surrender. Their kisses are desperate, hungry, a release of everything they've held back. Julian's lips are firm, tasting of whiskey and want, and Catalina responds with equal fire, her tongue teasing his, her hands threading through his hair. He lifts her, setting her on a crate, her legs wrapping around his waist, pulling him closer. His hands explore her, one sliding up her thigh, the other cupping her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. She's all heat and softness, her skin like silk under his fingers, and he can't get enough the way her hips move against him, the soft moans she makes when he kisses her neck, the way her nails dig into his shoulders. Their clothes are a barrier they both resent. Catalina tugs at his shirt, pulling it free, her hands roaming the hard planes of his chest, the ridges of his abdomen, the faint scars that tell stories she wants to know. Julian's hands are just as bold, slipping under her blouse, tracing the curve of her waist, the swell of her breasts. He pushes the silk aside, his lips following his hands, kissing the smooth skin of her collarbone, the valley between her breasts. She arches into him, her head falling back, her hair spilling over the crate like a dark waterfall. It's not just physical, it's a shedding of their names, their duties, a moment where they're not Delacroix or Navarro, just Julian and Catalina, two souls claiming each other against the odds. They meet again and again, each rendezvous more reckless, more vital. A rooftop bar in the warehouse district, where they dance under the stars, Julian's hands on her hips, her body swaying to a rhythm only they hear. A hidden room in a bywater hotel, where they lose themselves in each other, their bodies tangled in sheets, their whispers a mix of love and fear. A deserted dock along the Mississippi, where they sit on the hood of Julian's car, sharing a cigarette, their fingers entwined, the river a mirror for their fragile dreams. Each meeting is a gamble, their lives a tightrope walk between desire and danger. Julian knows his father's spies are watching, that one wrong move could cost him his place in the family. Catalina feels her mother's grip tightening, the threat of an arranged marriage looming closer. They're careful using burner phones, coded messages, routes that avoid their family's eyes, but every touch, every kiss, is a step closer to the edge. Their love is a fire, consuming, and undeniable. When they're together, the world makes sense. Julian finds himself laughing, truly laughing, for the first time in years, his gray eyes bright with a joy he thought he'd lost. Catalina feels free, her spirit unchained, her heart open in a way she never dared. Their intimacy is a language of its own. Julian's hands, learning the map of her body, Catalina's lips tracing the lines of his scars. They make love with a desperation that speaks of borrowed time, each moment a stolen treasure, each climax a defiance of the world that would tear them apart. But fear is their constant companion. They know what discovery would mean: violence, betrayal, perhaps even death. Julian lies awake after their meetings, his arm around Catalina, her head on his chest, and wonders how long they can keep this secret. Catalina, curled against him, her fingers tracing patterns on his skin, feels the weight of her family's expectations, the knowledge that one misstep could destroy not just them, but everyone they love. Their last meeting before the storm comes, in a safe house in Trem, a cramped apartment with peeling paint and a single window overlooking the street. They're both on edge, the city buzzing with rumors of a new deal between their families, one that could shift the balance of power. Julian is shirtless, his jeans low on his hips, his body a canvas of muscle and shadow as he paces the room. Catalina sits on the bed, her leather jacket discarded, her silk top clinging to her curves, her eyes following him. "We can't keep doing this," Julian says, his voice raw, but he stops pacing and looks at her, his eyes betraying his need. "Then stop," Catalina challenges, standing, her hips swaying as she closes the distance. "Walk away, Julian. Tell me you can." He can't. He pulls her to him, his hands framing her face, his lips crashing into hers. They fall onto the bed, a tangle of limbs and heat, their bodies speaking what their words can't. Later, as they lie together, the city's hum, a distant lullaby. Catalina whispers, "If this ends, promise me you'll remember this. Us." Julian kisses her forehead, his arms tightening around her. "Always," he says, his voice a vow. But the world is closing in. Unknown to them, a Navarro enforcer has been watching, his camera capturing their silhouettes through a window. The photos are already on their way to Elena Navarro, and the match has been struck. The fire of their love is about to meet the powder keg of their family's hatred, and nothing will be the same. New Orleans hums with its usual seductive rhythm, but beneath the jazz and neon, a storm is brewing. The city, with its labyrinthine streets and whispered secrets, has been a silent witness to Julian Delacroix and Catalina Navarro's forbidden love. Their stolen moments, kisses on rooftops, whispered promises in hidden rooms, bodies entwined in defiance of their family's war have been a fragile rebellion against the Delacroix and Navarro feud. But the world they've tried to outrun is closing in, and the fire of their love is about to ignite a catastrophe neither could have foreseen. Julian, at 28, is a man caught between duty and desire, his polished exterior a mask for the chaos within. His tall frame, broad shoulders, and lean muscles are accentuated by the tailored black shirt he wears tonight, the fabric clinging to his chest, the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with strength. His dark hair, swept back but perpetually tousled, falls into his storm gray eyes, which burn with a restless intensity. His face-high cheekbones, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, lips that promise both danger and devotioness, a study in contradictions, beautiful yet haunted. When he moves, It's with a predator's grace, his long fingers adjusting the silver watch at his wrist or brushing back a stray lock of hair. His voice, low and smooth like aged bourbon, can soothe or command, but it's the rare moments when his eyes soften or his lips curve into a private smile that make him unforgettable. Women still turn to watch him, drawn to the heat beneath his icy exterior, the way his shirt hints at the sculpted body beneath, the faint stubble that darkens his jaw. But Julian's heart belongs to Catalina, the Navarro woman who's become his salvation and his ruin. Catalina, 26, is a vision of fire and defiance, her beauty a weapon she wields with precision. Her bronze skin glows under the city's lights, her dark hair cascading in waves that frame her face like a siren's call. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, are sharp and searching, capable of piercing through lies or softening with a vulnerability she guards fiercely. Her body is a masterpiece's slender, yet curvaceous, with long legs that move with a dancer's grace, hips that sway like a promise, and a waist that begs to be held. Tonight, she's in a fitted leather jacket over a silk camisole that clings to her breasts, paired with jeans that mold to her thighs like a second skin. Her lips, full and rose-tinted, curve into smiles that are both challenge and seduction, and her voice a soft lilt with a Latin cadence carries a fire that can ignite or destroy. Men crave her, women envy her, but Catalina's soul is tethered to Julian, the Delacroix man who sees her as more than a pawn in her family's game. The unraveling begins with a single photograph, snapped by a Navarro enforcer in the shadows of their trim safe house. The image is grainy but unmistakable. Julian and Catalina, locked in an embrace, their lips pressed together, their bodies a tangle of forbidden desire. The enforcer, loyal to Elena Navarro, delivers the photo to her within hours, and the news spreads like wildfire through the Navarro compound. Elena's rage is a quiet, deadly thing, her emerald eyes narrowing as she studies the image, her manicured nails tapping a rhythm of retribution. To her, Catalina's betrayal is not just personal, it's a threat to the Navarro Empire, a crack in the armor they've built through blood and cunning. She summons her lieutenants, her voice cold, as she orders Catalina's confinement and a plan to deal with Julian Delacroix. Across the city, in the Delacroix mansion, the news arrives via a traitor in the Navarro ranks, a double agent who trades secrets for cash. Antoine Delacroix, Julian's father, receives the report with a face carved from ice, his blue eyes glinting with fury. The photograph, a mirror of the one Elena holds, is a slap to the Delacroix Namia son, consorting with the enemy, kindling a scandal that could weaken their grip on the city. Antoine calls Julian to his study, the air thick with the scent of old leather and cigar smoke. "You've disgraced us," Antoine says, his voice a low growl. The photo slammed onto the desk between them. Julian stands tall, his jaw tight, his gray eyes unyielding, but inside, his heart is a war zone. Antoine's threat is clear: renounce Catalina or lose everything, his inheritance, his place in the family, perhaps even his life. Catalina is ambushed at the Navarro compound, her mother's enforcers dragging her from her room before she can react. She fights, her nails clawing, her voice a snarl, but she's outnumbered. They lock her in a suite on the top floor, the windows barred, the door guarded. Her leather jacket is stripped away, her phone confiscated, leaving her in her silk camisole and jeans, her hair wild, her hazel eyes blazing with defiance. Elena visits, her emerald gown, a stark contrast to the sterile room, her voice dripping with venom. "You've shamed us," she hisses, holding up the photograph. "You'll stay here until you remember who you are." Catalina's response is a single venomous word: never. But alone, pacing the room, her bravado falters. She thinks of Giuliani's touch, his voice, the way he made her feel alive, and fear claws at her chest. She knows what her family is capable of, what they'll do to him. Julian, meanwhile, is a caged lion, his father's ultimatum ringing in his ears. He's confined to the mansion, his every move watched, his phone tapped. But Julian is no stranger to deception. He uses a hidden burner phone to send Catalina a coded message. A single line: "Midnight, the docks." He knows it's a long shot, that she might not see it, but it's all he has. He spends the day playing the dutiful son, his face a mask of compliance, but his mind is racing, plotting an escape not just for himself, but for them both. His body, taut with tension, moves through the mansion's halls, his gray eyes scanning for weaknesses in his father's security. He's beautiful even in his fury, the black shirt clinging to his muscles, his hair falling into his eyes, his lips set in a determined line. Every thought is of Catalina, her fire, her softness, the way she felt in his arms, and he'll burn the world down to reach her. Catalina, trapped in her gilded prison, finds the message by chance, hidden in a book slipped to her by a sympathetic maid. Her heart leaps, but fear tempers her hope. Escape is nearly impossible. Her mother's guards are relentless, the compound a fortress. But Catalina is her mother's daughter, cunning and resourceful. She studies the guards' patterns, memorizes the creak of the floorboards, the timing of their shifts. She fashions a distraction, a short-circuited lamp that sparks and smokes, drawing the guards' attention. In the chaos, she slips out, her bare feet silent, her silk camisole catching the moonlight as she navigates the compound's shadows. She steals a guard's jacket, pulling it over her shoulders, and makes her way to the docks, her heart a drumbeat, her body trembling with adrenaline. The docks along the Mississippi are a maze of crates and shadows, the river's surface glinting under a sliver of moon. Julian is there, waiting, his leather jacket open to reveal a white t-shirt that clings to his chest, his jeans low on his hips. He's a vision of danger and desire, his gray eyes scanning the darkness, his body coiled with tension. When he sees Catalina, relief floods his face, but it's fleeting. She looks haunted, her hair wild, her hazel eyes wide with fear and determination. She runs to him, and he catches her, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her against his chest. Her body fits his perfectly, her curves molding to his hard lines, and for a moment they just hold each other, their breaths mingling, their hearts racing. "We don't have much time," Julian says, his voice rough, his lips brushing her forehead. His hands frame her face, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones, and she leans into his touch, her eyes searching his. "They know, Catalina, both of them. We have to run." She nods, her lips trembling, but her voice is steady. "Together," she says, her hands gripping his shirt, her nails digging into his skin. "No matter what." They plan in whispers, their bodies close, the rivers hum a backdrop to their desperation. Julian has a contact in Mexico, a smuggler who owes him a favor, who can get them across the border. Catalina knows a hacker who can erase their digital trails, giving them a head start. It's a long shot, a plan built on hope and desperation, but it's all they have. They agree to meet in 48 hours, at a safe house in Algiers, where they'll make their final move. But this moment, this stolen embrace, is theirs. Julian pulls her closer, his lips finding hers, the kiss fierce and desperate, a promise sealed in the face of ruin. Her lips are soft, warm, tasting of salt and defiance, and he loses himself in her, his hands roaming her back, slipping under the stolen jacket to feel the heat of her skin. Catalina responds with equal hunger, her hands sliding under his shirt, tracing the ridges of his abdomen, the scars that mark his battles. Their bodies press together, her breasts against his chest, her hips against his, and it's a moment of pure, reckless abandona defiance of the world that's closing in. "I love you," Julian says, the words spilling out, raw and unguarded, as he pulls back to look at her. His gray eyes are fierce, vulnerable, and she feels them pierce her soul. "I love you," Catalina whispers back, her voice breaking, her hazel eyes glistening with unshed tears. She cups his face, her thumbs brushing his lips, and they kiss again, softer this time, a vow etched in moonlight. The sound of a car engine in the distance breaks the spell. They pull apart, their breaths ragged, their hands lingering. "Go," Julian says, his voice firm but laced with pain. "I'll find you." Catalina nods, her lips swollen from his kisses, her body still humming with his touch. She slips into the shadows, her stolen jacket blending with the night, and Julian watches her go, his heart a battlefield. He turns back to the river, lighting a cigarette, the flame casting his face in sharp relief. The plan is set, but the odds are against them. Their families are closing in, their spies everywhere, and the city itself seems to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable explosion. In the Navarro compound, Elena studies the empty room where Catalina was held, her rage a living thing. In the Delacroix mansion, Antoine sharpens his plans, his spies reporting Julian's every move. The photograph that started it all is a spark that's become a blaze, and Julian and Catalina are at its heart, their love, a double-edged blade that could save them or destroy everything they know. The Mississippi River flows like a dark vein through New Orleans, its surface catching the faint glow of a waning moon. The city, with its jazz-soaked streets and shadowed secrets, holds its breath as Julian Delacroix and Catalina Navarro stand on the precipice of their fate. Their love, a fire that burned through the barriers of their family's war, has been exposed, and the Delacroix and Navarro empires are mobilizing for retribution. The photograph that captured their forbidden kiss has ignited a powder keg, and the lovers are running out of time. Yet, in this fleeting moment, they cling to each other, their hearts defiant, their souls bound by a vow that transcends the blood feud threatening to tear them apart. Julian, at 28, is a man forged in conflict, his beauty a weapon as sharp as his mind. His tall frame, broad shoulders, and lean muscles are accentuated by a black leather jacket that hangs open, revealing a white t-shirt stretched taut across his chest, hinting at the sculpted strength beneath. His dark hair, perpetually tousled, falls into his storm gray eyes, which burn with a mix of determination and desperation. His face-high cheekbones, a jawline carved from marble, lips that carry the memory of Catalina's kisses, a study in resolve, the faint stubble darkening his cheeks, adding a rugged edge. When he moves, it's with a predator's grace, his long fingers adjusting the knife at his belt or brushing back a stray lock of hair. His voice, low and smooth like aged bourbon, carries a quiet intensity, each word weighted with purpose. Women still pause to watch him, drawn to the heat beneath his icy exterior, the way his body promises both protection and peril. But Julian's world has narrowed to one truth: Catalina Navarro, the woman he'd burn the city down to save. Catalina, 26, is a vision of fire and resilience. Her beauty, a defiance of the cage her family tried to lock her in. Her bronze skin glows under the moonlight, her dark hair cascading in waves that frame her face like a lover's caress. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, are sharp and searching, holding both courage and a flicker of fear. Her body is a masterpiece, slender, yet curvaceous, with long legs that carry her with a dancer's grace, hips that sway like a siren's call, and a waist that begs to be held. She's in a stolen guard's jacket, unzipped to reveal a silk camisole that clings to her breasts, paired with jeans that mold to her thighs like a second skin. Her lips, full and rose-tinted, are set in a determined line, but they soften when she looks at Julian, a silent promise in their curve. Her voice a soft lilt, with a Latin cadence carries, a fire that can spark hope or destruction. Men crave her, women envy her, but Catalina's heart beats for Julian, the Delacroix man who saw her soul and claimed it as his own. Their plan, hatched in the shadows of the docks, is a desperate gamble. Flee New Orleans, cross the border into Mexico, and disappear into a life where their names no longer mean death. Julian's smuggler contact, a grizzled man named Rico, has promised a boat to take them down the Gulf, but the window is narrow 48 hours before their family's spies close the net. Catalina's hacker friend, a shadow in the digital world, is working to erase their traces. But the Navarro and Delacroix networks are vast, their reach suffocating. Every step is a risk, every moment a stolen breath. And the safe house in Algiers is their last hope before the leap into the unknown. The safe house is a crumbling shotgun house on the edge of Algiers, its peeling paint and sagging porch a disguise for the reinforced doors and hidden caches within. Julian arrives first, slipping through the night like a ghost, his leather jacket blending with the shadows. He checks the perimeter, his gray eyes scanning for threats, his knife ready at his side. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the faint scent of mildew, but it's a sanctuary, a place where they can be together, if only for a moment. He paces the small living room, his body taut with tension, his mind racing with contingencies. He's beautiful even in his agitation, the t-shirt clinging to his muscles, his hair falling into his eyes, his lips set in a line that speaks of love and fear. Catalina arrives just before dawn, her stolen jacket discarded, her silk camisole catching the faint light filtering through the cracked blinds. She's a vision of defiance, her hair wild, her hazel eyes blazing with a mix of hope and dread. She runs to Julian, and he catches her, his arms wrapping around her, pulling her against his chest. Her body fits his perfectly, her curves molding to his hard lines, and for a moment, they just hold each other, their breaths mingling, their hearts racing. "You made it," Julian murmurs, his lips brushing her forehead, his hands framing her face, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones. "Barely," Catalina whispers, her voice trembling but fierce. She leans into his touch, her hands gripping his t-shirt, her nails digging into his skin. "They're close, Julian. I heard Elena's men talking. They know we're planning to run." Julian's jaw tightens, his gray eyes darkening, but he nods, his resolve unshaken. "Then we move faster," he says, his voice a low growl. "Rico's boat leaves at midnight. We'll be gone before they can stop us." they spend the day in the safe house, their bodies close, their words a mix of planning and promises. Julian lays out the route down the river, through the Gulf, to a small town in Mexico where they can start over. Catalina shares the hacker's progress, a digital smokescreen to cover their tracks. But the real conversation is in their touches, the way Julian's fingers trace the curve of her waist, the way Catalina's lips brush his throat, the way their bodies press together as if to memorize each other. They're beautiful together, a study in contrast. His strength, her fire, their love, a flame that refuses to die. As night falls, they prepare for the final step. Julian gives Catalina a small velvet pouch, his fingers lingering on hers. Inside is a silver necklace, delicate but strong, with a pendant shaped like a crescent moon. "For you," he says, his voice rough with emotion. "No matter what happens, this is yours." He doesn't tell her about the microchip hidden in the pendant, a failsafe with Rico's coordinates, and a coded message for their escape. Her hazel eyes glisten as she fastens it around her neck, the pendant resting against her collarbone, a vow etched in silver. Catalina, in turn, slips a folded letter into the pocket of his jacket, her fingers brushing his chest. "Read it later," she says, her voice soft but firm. "When you're safe." The letter, written in the quiet hours of her confinement, is hidden in the pages of a book. Julian once gave her a worn copy of The Great Gatsby, a gift from their art gallery days. The words are her heart laid bare. "If we can't reach our future, at least hold on to that moonlit night in your heart. I love you always." She doesn't tell him it's there, but her eyes say everything, a silent plea to remember her. Their final moment comes too soon. The safe house is compromiseta. Navarro enforcer's car is spotted circling the block, its headlights cutting through the night. Julian and Catalina know they can't stay, can't risk being caught together. "We split up," Julian says, his voice steady but laced with pain. "You go to Rico's boat. I'll draw them off, meet you there." Catalina shakes her head, her hazel eyes fierce. "No, Julian, we go together." "There's no time," he cuts her off, his hands cupping her face, his lips crashing into hers. The kiss is fierce, desperate, a vow sealed in the face of ruin. Her lips are soft, warm, tasting of salt and love, and he loses himself in her, his hands roaming her back, slipping under her camisole to feel the heat of her skin. Catalina responds with equal hunger, her hands sliding under his t-shirt, tracing the ridges of his abdomen, the scars that mark his battles. Their bodies press together, her breasts against his chest, her hips against his, and it's a moment of pure, reckless defiancia, refusal to let go. "I'll find you," Julian says, pulling back, his gray eyes locked on hers, his voice a vow etched in blood. "I swear it." Catalina nods, her lips swollen from his kisses, her body trembling with his touch. "You better," she says, her voice breaking, a half-smile flickering through her tears. She slips into the night, her silhouette fading into the shadows, the necklace glinting at her throat. Julian watches her go, his heart a battlefield, then turns to face the coming storm. He slips out the back, his knife ready, his body coiled for a fight. He draws the enforcers away, leading them on a chase through Algiers' narrow streets, his leather jacket flapping as he runs, his gray eyes scanning for an escape. By dawn, he's crossed the border into Mexico, his face hidden under a cap, his identity shed like a skin. He's a ghost, a man with no name, but the necklace's chip burns in his mind, a beacon to Catalina. Catalina, meanwhile, reaches Venice Beach, California, her hacker's work buying her enough time to slip out of New Orleans. She sits on the pier, the Pacific stretching before her, her hazel eyes fixed on the horizon. The necklace rests against her skin, a reminder of Julian's promise, but her heart is heavy, her body aching for his touch. She's a vision of strength and sorrow, her hair catching the sea breeze, her silk camisole clinging to her curves, her jeans worn from the journey. The letter she left him feels like a lifeline, a hope that he'll find it, that he'll know she's waiting. The story ends with two images, each a question mark in the night. Julian, a lone figure crossing a dusty Mexican border, his gray eyes hidden but searching, the weight of his vow driving him forward. Catalina, a solitary woman on a California pier, her hazel eyes reflecting the sea, the necklace, a silent promise against her skin. They're alive, but apart, their love a flame that burns despite the distance. Will they find each other? Will their family's wrath catch them first? The answers lie beyond the horizon, in a future unwritten, a story that's only just begun. Want to know what happens next? Will Julian and Catalina defy the odds, or will their love be their undoing? Stay tuned to my channel for the next chapter of their saga, where secrets unravel and the heart of New Orleans beats on. Subscribe and join the journey, because this love story is far from over.